Jamaica, formerly known as Jamaica, the land of wood and water. We're still harboring the spirit of independence on today's magazine, so follow us as we journey to the hills and plains of our island home, exploring the unique natural gifts of our landscape. I'm Theodore, your tour guide for today. Let's get started on this exciting expedition.
Living in Jamaica is an experience that you cannot put in words. There's an energy in the atmosphere that just feels good. There's so many aspects of Jamaica that I think makes it second to none. The best food, the best music, the best people. We can go on and on about the good things about living in Jamaica. There's a parish in Jamaica called Portland. I think that's one of my favorite places to be. It's one of the most nature-oriented parishes, and I love the nightlife in Kingston. Once you come here and you get that connection with the people, that connection with the food and the music and just the lifestyle is something that you'll always remember. People should visit Jamaica because I'm sure 100% that it is the place to be on planet Earth. You need to come here and you'll get that experience that you will never forget.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, August 7. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that strict measures are coming in an effort to limit the spread of COVID-19 as the country recorded 30 new cases in a day. During a press conference on Independence Day, Mr. Holness said a large percentage of the population were flouting the law as it pertains to the Disaster Risk Management Act. Among the slew of measures expected is a tightening of the curfew time, restriction on the movement of residents, and adjustment to the quarantine orders for incoming travelers. The announcements will be made by Tuesday.
I've always said that if the situation warrants it, then we will have to extend existing or implement new restrictive measures. We have spent a lot of time and effort and resources on moral suasion, asking you, the citizens, appealing to your good conscience and your reasonableness to observe the protocols. With what is happening now, I think we are at the limit in moral suasion.
Up to news time, the country's novel coronavirus cases stood at 958. Of that number, 745 persons had recovered, leaving 149 active cases. Approximately 26 of the confirmed cases have been linked to the Church Corner community in St. Thomas, forcing the government to place the area and its environs under quarantine. On August 6, a quarantine order was also implemented for the Sandy Bay community in Clarendon after 2 positive cases of the virus were admitted at the Maypen Hospital. Meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton toured the quarantined communities of Sandy Bay in Clarendon and Church Corner in St. Thomas today. Dr. Tufton said it was necessary to meet with residents in the affected communities to have a first-person understanding of the health and safety issues impacting the areas.
The team is in place and work is currently being done on the ground, and that will continue for the next 2 weeks. So far, persons have been very cooperative. The same rules apply, as is the case of St. Thomas.
The health officials will continue finalizing the logistics within the communities to allow for the expedited rollout of ongoing contact tracing, sampling of persons, and public education. The minister says all positive cases are being pinned to GPS mapping for analysis and to inform the ministry's strategy going forward. The health team is also working with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to coordinate care for the households under quarantine in the communities. To date, 5 communities have been placed under quarantine, with the other 3 orders previously lifted. In other news, hundreds of residents in Oracabessa and Three Hills, St. Mary, are now benefiting from internet and other related services. Community access points were established at the Spicy Grove Youth Center in Oracabessa and the Three Hills Resource Center in Tower Isle. Both are financed by the Universal Service Fund and were officially commissioned into service on Wednesday. Technology Minister Fable Williams says their opening will support the delivery of education in the new school year against the backdrop of the global pandemic and its restrictions.
This is the new Jamaica, and we're working to create a technology-enabled society that can meet the needs of the digital age. As a ministry, we recognize that government has an integral role to play in creating the enabling environment that will allow more Jamaicans to access internet and basic services. You well know that with the outbreak of COVID-19, the demand for technology has become even greater.
The minister urged residents to make the best use of the facilities. They are among 400 community access points providing internet and other services which have been established island-wide, with 6 now being located in St. Mary. The Education Ministry is developing an app that will grant students easy access to academic materials in the upcoming school year. Acting Chief Education Officer Dr. Kassan Troop revealed the news during the ministry's back-to-school digital town hall meeting on Tuesday.
This application will be available to all our students, those students who will be providing technological support for, and those students who will bring their own device.
She says the app will allow access to the learning materials even if students are without data service.
The textbooks can be accessed through this, our e-resources can be accessed through this, and we have downloaded over 83 different learning applications that will be made available. Our teachers will become familiar with these and will plan these in the learning episodes. So those who are working from home, they'll be able to access the materials offline and continue as they come back to school for the follow-up discussions.
The information session was jointly hosted by the Ministry, the National Parenting Support Commission, and the National Parent-Teacher Association of Jamaica. Still on education, 569 schools will resume normal operations when the 2020-21 academic year commences in September.
So it means that everybody will be in the same space every day. And of course, we have to observe the physical distancing. So with the infrastructure that we have in place in these institutions, they will be able to accommodate their fully enrolled students.
Dr. Troop gave the information during the back-to-school parent information session. Other institutions will be implementing a blended learning approach and forging stakeholder partnerships aimed at adequately facilitating physical distancing protocols for students in keeping with COVID-19 regulations.
And some of these schools will get what we call temporary learning spaces via tent or via rental agreements with nearby institutions such as our churches or those that have conference halls or so forth.
Meanwhile, she says an additional 303 primary and secondary schools will resume operations under the rotation model. Several other institutions will be utilizing the extended school model with students in attendance on a shift system, as well as using online modality for engagement. And finally, in a move to highlight local cancer statistics and trends, the Misty Blue Cancer Care Foundation will be spearheading a number of teleconferences. The foundation's chairman, Dorothy Satchwell, says each month, from August to December, the teleconference will focus on the most common types of cancers locally.
For the month of August, we look at cancer in general. For the month of September, which is prostate cancer month, we are going to be looking specifically at prostate cancer, which is the highest recurring cancer that we have been having in terms of mortality. Then for the month of October, we'll be looking at breast cancer. November is pancreatic month. It is also lung cancer month. So for the month of November, we look at lung cancer. And then in December, we'll be looking at colon and ovarian and cervical cancer.
Ms. Satchwell was speaking recently at a JIS think tank. She says from the teleconferences, they plan to submit a recommendation document to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The events will be streamed during the second Wednesday of each month from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Zoom, the Foundation's YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as JIS's YouTube and Facebook pages. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
The JIS Heritage Competition is celebrating 10 years of youth expression on Jamaican history, culture, and tradition.
Let me tell you about our Bashment heritage.
Jamaica still needs national heroes to preserve our cultural legacy.
Bogo got his men and let them down.
over the hills to Spanish Town.
Jamaican music to me represents our identity and culture as Jamaicans.
Add your voice and play your part in preserving our national heritage. The JIS Heritage Competition 2020. Enter now.
Our first stop in today's tour is at the Blue and John Crow Mountains in the cool hills of St. Andrew to do a bit of bird watching. In a moment, we will be learning about one of Jamaica's very own endemic little creatures, the hummingbird.
Look, do you see it? Can you tell which bird this is?
There are over 300 species of hummingbirds in the world, and Jamaica has 4 types. Our national bird, the doctor bird, is one of those 4, and it's endemic to the island. That means it's only found right here in Jamaica.
According to sources at the Institute of Jamaica, in 1962, a committee was established to consider the recommendations for the national emblems of the country. It was at that level that the red-billed streamer-tailed hummingbird, or doctor bird, was chosen to be Jamaica's national bird.
We actually have 2 species of streamer-tails. One is the red-billed streamer-tail, one is the black-billed streamer-tail. The red-billed streamer-tail and the black-billed streamer-tail is considered by some authorities as 2 separate species. Here in Jamaica, we still consider them to be 2 species.
The red-billed streamer-tail can be found across most of the island except the eastern tip, where you'll find the black-billed streamer-tail. Hummingbirds' nests are made from small leafy materials woven together with cobwebs. There are about 2 eggs per clutch or grouping, usually 1 male and 1 female.
Hummingbirds are actually sexually dimorphic. In other words, there are 2 different forms for male and females. The male is actually a lot more flashy.
Jamaicans call the red-billed streamer-tail the doctor bird because of the appearance of the male, with its black crest and 2 iconic tail feathers, resembling the top hat and coat tails of doctors in the past. The male doctor bird also has shimmering green feathers on the chest and back, and a bright red bill with a black tip. The female looks very different because she has a short tail, white chest feathers, and slightly green feathers on the back. The female's bill is also dark brown with red at the base.
You can actually find males without a tail, and there are several reasons for this. One, it could be a young male, right? Born earlier this year, for example, it's going to take a while before those tail feathers actually grow in. And sometimes you'll actually see some with very short tail, which means it's growing in. Another reason they might lack a tail is that they might have molted it. That is, they change their feathers. After the feathers get worn out, they actually drop them and a new set of feathers actually grows in. Sometimes you'll find a male with 1 tail feather. It lost it for one reason or the other. You know, it broke off. They could be fighting with each other and actually lost a tail feather. Hummingbirds, for their size, I mean, they're very tiny birds, but they're probably one of the most aggressive groups of birds in the entire world. The reason for this aggressive behavior is because of food scarcity. They have a group of flowers which they'll visit throughout the day because it takes some time for the nectar to replenish. Sometimes about half an hour, sometimes about an hour or longer. So what they do, they'll feed along a particular route, taking different flowers as they go along. And so once they finish feeding, they'll defend that area until it replenishes.
Hummingbirds flap their wings in a figure-8 motion, allowing them to change direction quickly as well as hover. But they are constantly burning so much energy that they must spend all day looking for food, only taking short rests in the shade.
Hummingbirds are considered nectar feeders, and there was a time when we believed these birds fed only on nectar from flowers. But in more recent times, we realized that they do actually take insects very occasionally, and we suspect it's really just to get some supplemental protein. In terms of the trees and the flowers that the hummingbirds feed on, I would like to highlight that the national tree, the blue maho, is actually one of the favorite flowers of the doctor bird.
You can spot the doctor bird at many of our public gardens across the island. For example, right here at the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park.
a United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Look at that color, shimmering emerald green, and those two long tails. Our national bird is certainly a sight to behold.
Let's get a little breeze on this land. All right. Now let's get some bounce in the rhythm. All right. Let's get some fire on our hearts. Now that is what we call all right. Run, come, get some Jamaica.
In our next feature, we visit two separate botanical gardens in the eastern hemisphere of the island. In one parish, we discovered Jamaica's first botanical garden, Bath Botanical, and in the other, one of Jamaica's most popular public gardens, Castleton. Let's explore.
We're here in St. Thomas at one of the oldest botanical gardens in the Western Hemisphere, the Bath Botanical Gardens. This is the beginning of a journey to discover the scientific, cultural and historical value of public gardens. Come now, let's explore these national and natural treasures. So what differentiates a public garden from a regular place where flowers and trees grow?
A public garden is an institution where plants are collected for the purpose of education, research, conservation, and recreation.
Along with Bath, there are 3 other public gardens on the island: Castleton in St. Mary and Hope and Syncona Gardens, both in St. Andrew. The public can access these venues at no cost. Today, we'll be exploring Bath and Castleton. Except for Hope Gardens, the Public Gardens Division of the Ministry of Agriculture, Commerce, Industry and Fisheries, MICAF, preserves and maintains these natural beauties.
The objective then of the public garden is to conserve the biodiversity of plant life in the island. So we are here to ensure that the plants are maintained, they are conserved, they are preserved, that research is conducted on them so that generations and generations will have that area.
Bath Botanical Garden was the first public garden established on the island. As a research site, imported plants were introduced here to assess how they would adapt to the tropical environment.
Food that Jamaicans love, like breadfruit, was first introduced to this garden by Captain Bligh. He came here with the breadfruit, the ackee and OTT apple. Those are the famous ones. Other plants were introduced to the garden that people see all the time, the bougainvilleas, the crotons. All of these were first introduced to the gardens.
Constant flooding from the nearby sulfuric spring destroyed many of the plants and led to a decline of the garden. Though nowhere near its former glory, the space still provides the opportunity for persons to come and enjoy nature's bounty.
Bath is a beautiful garden. It's one of the gardens that has the atmosphere that you come in here. It's a cool, calming environment that I would encourage anybody to come. If you want to study, you can come here and study. If you want to just come out with your church group, want to come out with any little grouping, or even yourself and a friend can come and walk and learn about the different plants that are in the garden.
Bath's fall saw the rise of this location as the premier growing spot for exotic plants in Jamaica.
The garden you're visiting is Castleton Botanical Garden. It was owned by a man called Colonel Castle. Colonel Castle traveled all over the country and bring plants from different countries and plant here. So when he get old, he donated to the government of Jamaica. The government finished cultivate it and give it its name, Castleton Botanical Garden.
Growing here are many of the plants introduced on the island in the 19th and 20th century. These include poinciana, Bombay mango, navel orange, and tangerine.
One time it had over 400 palms. I think we're down to 180 species. So you have an area dedicated to the various palms that were introduced into the gardens. You also have rare fruits like mangosteen, and they have another one, the real velvet apple, that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
This is the Phoenix palm. When you knock it like this with a stone, it gives you sound. Why it gave you that sound? Because it's hollow inside. The more it grows old, the more it expands hollow.
Educational tours are just some of the offerings here at Castleton. But you can stop by for a swim if that's your thing. Perhaps a cookout is more your flavor. Or set up a spot on the lawn and bask in the glory of the great outdoors. Our expedition of the historic Bath and diverse Castleton Gardens ends here. Syncona and hope await, but in another edition of Jamaica Magazine. Until then, keep looking out.
To properly carry out a hand rub, apply a palmful of the product in your cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub your hands palm to palm. Rub your right palm over the back of your left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub your hands palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotationally rub backwards and forwards the clasped fingers of your right hand in your left palm and vice versa. Once your hands are dry, they are now safe.
It grows best in the dry woodland areas along the north and south coasts of the island. It is an extremely ornamental plant, and it produces an attractive blue flower and an orange-yellow fruit. The Lignum vitae is not only a national treasure in Jamaica, it is also one of the most useful plants in the world. Learn more next.
Christopher Columbus saw it here when he came. It means wood of life in Latin. It's world-renowned for its medicinal, ornamental, and industrial properties. But round these parts, it's known as the Lignum vitae, the island's national flower.
It is a tree that is native to Jamaica, it's native to Cuba, basically the Greater Antilles and parts of Central America. Its native habitat is pretty much dry alluvial type plains. It also grows in well-drained limestone areas.
This short, compact tree takes over 100 years to grow up to 30 feet tall. Due to its luminous purple-blue flower, alluring orange-yellow fruit, evergreen foliage, and attractive rounded shape, the tree dots across the Jamaican landscape, shading many houses, streets, and complexes. Since time immemorial, the Lignum vitae has been touted as the most useful tree in the world.
It produces a gum, and that gum used to be regarded as highly favored for medicinal uses.
Its body, gum, bark, fruit, leaves, and blossom are used to produce medicine. In colonial times, resin from the tree was used as a mild laxative and as a diuretic. The leaves were used as a remedy for respiratory, inflammatory, congestion, and neurological disorders. Its bark eases pain from sprains, strain, rheumatism, and arthritis. And I'm sure many Jamaican homes still ward off flies with its branches.
Its most noted feature is the wood. Because it's slow growing, it's very, very dense. And that density and the weight of it gives it a number of industrial uses.
That's because the lignum vitae is infused with an oil which makes it waterproof. It's ranked as the world's densest, hardest, and most durable traded wood. In addition to being used for making exquisite furniture, the lignum vitae was used to insulate trolley cars for the rail industry. The wood also made the propeller shaft bearings of most ships back in the day. Lignum vitae wood is also ideal for these creations. The lignum vitae is truly the holy grail of plants.
The Jamaican brand is known worldwide as a popular and sought-after tourism product. After all, we live where they vacation. Which is why our government is taking steps to further monetize and upgrade our brand and maximize its economic benefit and value. One way we can help to achieve this goal is by playing our part as brand ambassadors for Jamaica. Here are 2 ways to do so. Number 1, challenge yourself to explore our island some more. Don't just be comfortable in visiting the most popular places. Make it your duty to discover the hidden treasures and the less explored venues that are just as valuable. Number 2, share your travel experiences with others. Whether you want to share your experiences on your social media pages, personal blogs, or by word of mouth, you'll be doing Jamaica a great favor. If we can tell and show others what they are missing, then we are taking the first step in being the greatest brand ambassadors we can be. As we head off to the weekend, challenge yourself to play your part in building Brand Jamaica so that our island home can indeed realize its vision of being the place of choice for more persons to explore, live, work, raise families, and do business.
Jamaica, mighty one, oh, I bless our land, always, for strength and our vigor, with love and our courage, oh, yeah. So let's remind ourselves and tell the world, hey.
And this is where the tour ends for today's Jamaica Magazine. Thanks so much for joining us on the adventure. But as we depart, do remember that you can meet up with us again on our website at jis.gov.jm or our YouTube channel. While you're online, don't forget to send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via our social media pages. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Theodore, reminding you to explore and appreciate the things that make us uniquely Jamaican. Have yourselves an airy weekend.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.